Yeah, you can't beat it.
Yeah, the Crypto Bowl.
Yes, the Crypto Bowl. It's going to be interesting to see what commercials come up, what all's coming for the Super Bowl. It's going to be a good stuff this year. You got any predictions for who's going to win?
Uh, I think it'll be a close game. Most Super Bowls are kind of boring blowouts. I think this will be a close game.
Agreed. Anyways, today we got the Lumenswap Show with none other than B Gold from the JPEG DAO. Ben is having a little bit of trouble, technical difficulties with his internet. We saw that on Mint earlier. So, regardless, show must go on. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian. Tell us about JPEG DAO, how it got started.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the crypto space about 4 or 5 years. I really got excited into it actually while I was living in Iceland. Became part of the Icelandic Blockchain Foundation. Got involved with Monerium that was doing e-money on Rails, and that introduced me to Stellar and just kind of this idea that everything could be liquid. That you can walk into McDonald's, you can pay with your home equity, and just nobody cares, right? Every asset is equal and liquid, and that got me all excited about Stellar. And I've had a few projects on Stellar. Lettuce Pay was a POS system for small vendors. And then last year I got antsy and I didn't have a podcast and I needed to start a new project. And I was really interested in governance and how crypto can replace the way our current institutions run. And so I joined Bankless DAO and I got involved with DAOs. And I wanted a place where NFT collectors could come together and be a community, and you didn't have to be wealthy to get NFTs. So I started the JPEGDAO, which is essentially an NFT club and self-governing body.
I love it. You mentioned about everything being liquid. I really like that idea of being able to tokenize everything having value. And like you mentioned, you can go use your Apple stock or your Tesla stock to get a coffee at Starbucks. It's super efficient. You mentioned about governance. Tell us a little bit about how governance works on the DAO now, and what are your plans to expand governance in the future?
Yeah, so there's two ways to govern in a DAO. One is well, so there's many ways to vote, but ultimately voting is voting. And but the actual governance, the execution of votes, there's two ways. You either can have a multi-sig wallet, a governance body that owns a wallet that say we're going to execute this decision, or you can have a smart contract that says people voted this way, we're going to send the money off instantly. Unfortunately, that second way is just not really up to speed yet, and it just doesn't cover a lot of actual use cases. Most use cases don't mean people vote, that means someone gets money. Most use cases are people vote, therefore a team needs to do something. And so that's how our governance functions. Is we have 5 different committees that do the governing, and then they have a whole bunch of volunteers and helpers that execute on those votes. So going into the future, we want to expand our committees. Each committee has about 5, 6 people on it. We want to get up to 10 people on these multi-sig wallets, and probably grow to closer to 7, 8, or 9 committees. I would say philanthropy, marketing, innovation, treasury, art is the current lineup, and there's probably room for a few more.
Nice, nice. I noticed that recently there's been a little bit of a change in your structure, introducing a new tier to the 10K club. Can you tell us a little bit about the tier system you have set up?
Yeah, sure. So there's two changes to the system. First is we got silver and gold now. So silver is you acquire 10,000 tokens. You're a silver member. Gold is 100,000 tokens. Um, Gold is for the folks out there that want to get digital collectibles that are quite a bit more rare. The silver membership is essentially unchanged. Gold membership is also a bit of an exclusive club. So all you have to do is open up a Discord room with all gold members, and just like that, you have a really nice network, right? With high quality conversation, kind of the way Public Node encourages high quality conversation by having high quality members. So silver is unchanged. It's the way it's always been. Gold is just kind of a tier up. The other thing we're doing with new roles is we have, starting Monday, 5 individuals, including myself, that are going to be called the core contributors. And so our bosses are the committees, but we're going to do a lot of the executing, and we're going to make sure shit gets moving, including, and I don't want to, Ben, I see you're back here. I don't want to get too far into JPEG, but tomorrow, personally for me, is the most exciting day in JPEG history so far. There's a very major announcement coming tomorrow in partnership with a zoo and ecological society in New York City. So you'll have to wait and see about that.
I'm excited to hear about that. Speaking of partnerships, I've seen that y'all partnered with the beer token recently. Tell us a little bit about how that came into play and what are the future plans with beer token?
I mean, those are cool guys. You know, they it's a really nice team. They have a really solid reward structure. They've implemented quite a bit of cool tech to implement different tiers of rewards to different people. And we just wanted to kind of introduce our communities to each other as really a start of a partnership. But really, the similarity between beer and JPEG is at our heart, we're not products. At our heart, we're communities. And so, yeah, we're just introducing our communities to each other and airdropping to each other to grow the communities. And we'll see more out of that over the next coming months. But nothing for sure. It'll really be up to the members what we want to do with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've noticed they've been posting a lot more NFTs lately. And I really think that's a big thing moving forward for Stellar. It's going to be about unification. We're going to have to come together and really help bring these projects together because there is strength in numbers. And looks like we put up a giveaway. So in the comments, make sure you're putting in JPEG in order to win 100 or 1,000 LSP. So make sure to get those comments in. Make sure to like this video as well. That really helps with the algorithms. Are you back?
Oh, it's good to
Welcome
be. It's
back,
good to
Ben.
actually be. Can you guys hear me?
I can. Your Lumenswap hat is a little bit blurry, a little more blurry than it was, but you look sharp.
Okay, perfect. So as long as you can hear me more so than see me, I'm happy. So it's good to have you, Brian. I don't know what's going on here. I'm actually patching in on my phone now through my iMac.
Gosh.
So it's about the best that I can do at the moment because the internet's collapsed. So yeah, it's great to have you with us. And by all means, I mean let's really dig into JPEG. I think that Harley's done a great job there of kind of starting us off, but for sure let's have because we didn't really have that much time, I don't think, when you were on Mint, where we could really dig into everything that you've got going on and really illuminate into our community what the different processes really and kind of explaining to potential investors what they can look to be doing. I know that you've got this mountain token as well. I'm one of your your gold members, and Jack was telling me about these cool Nor Cheese NFTs, and I got one of those with my mountain tokens. And so there's so much. Try and like help us out there, with this kind of system that you've got now, so that we can really we get behind you.
Yeah, sure. So as a silver or gold member, you're rewarded with the mountain token, and the mountain token is actually the hexadecimal code for a mountain emoji. So on many wallets, you'll just see an emoji of a mountain. That's why it's a bunch of strange letters is the actual token, because our token is the mountain emoji. That's our rewards token. And so when you get these mountains, you can be linked over to Lightmint and you can purchase your reward. The interesting thing about the tokenomics around that is, let's say we put out a silver NFT with a distribution of 100, and let's say people with their mountains are going on and they're picking up their NFT, but let's say a bunch of other random people all of a sudden want that NFT, right? Well, they need to do they need a swap to the mountain token, because that's the only token we're accepting for our NFTs, and so that drives the price of the mountain up, and it drives the price of the NFT up. but if you're a silver member, you still get to purchase it with the mountain, right? So it's interesting because all of the mountains we receive back, we burn, right? There's only one way to get the mountain, and that's to be a JPEG member, and you're rewarded with it. There's no stock reserved for giveaways or for the team. It's simply a rewards token, and you'll see additional NFT experiences in the future that you get to play or entertain yourself with the mountain token. Not gonna give away too much detail, but we're doing stuff with the Actionverse, where our NFTs will be placed all around the Actionverse. And to play the game, it might cost you 1 mountain token. So we'll see.
I love how you were able to get that mountain emoji on there. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I think a lot more tokens are going to follow suit and put emojis as their ticker. But one thing I like about it is the fact that you can swap one NFT for another NFT. It kind of reminds me of like Pokemon cards, how back in the day, or even baseball cards, any kind of cards, you used to swap them with your friends. You can trade them back and forth. I think that's where a lot of this is going to go, with the swapping and like we mentioned before, everything just having value.
Yeah. So when you're distributing, when they all cost 1 mountain token, and you got 300 members that are all getting it, it becomes pretty much the only liquid NFT that exists in the world, right? If you look at Ethereum, they're not liquid as they cost too much in gas. You look at Stellar, they're only liquid if they have a high distribution and you got active members. A 1-for-1 NFT is just never going to be liquid. That's the nature of the beast. So we're putting out these liquid NFTs, and then you combine that with our organization, which activates projects and gives away grants. And essentially, we're saying to the world, hey, if you need NFTs for your game, you can use ours because they're liquid and people have them, and they'll come play. Like if you're playing a card game, or you're a character and you're playing with a sword in a game, and you need to use or win 1 NFT, our NFTs are perfect for that because they're liquid. They can be sold and bought like that.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really interesting concept, where you've got like the NFT for NFT, transition. I think that's something that fascinates me as well, in terms, like you say, about games and how they can be utilized for different activities and different actions. And as you said about like actions token, and this kind of like where you can go around and potentially find these and maybe, or utilize them in different ways. I think that's going to be like really cutting edge this year, going into next year, as, more and more people from traditional gaming kind of come across that are in crypto as well, and kind of start thinking, okay, what's the utility? Because the utility of NFTs, I think that's where, for me, even though they're fantastic art pieces, I think that utility is going to be where the big breakthroughs are going to make. Do you reckon that we're going to see this kind of tipping point pretty soon, Brian, where, there's going to be a boom of utilities in NFTs, and we kind of go down that road and we start seeing real innovation there?
I think so, because that's where the mainstream people outside of crypto can easily understand the product. It's a unique digital good. It can be a concert ticket. It can be your driver's license. It can be an award. So that makes sense for people. Why a pixelated picture of a punk who's an alien sold for $24 million yesterday? It doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. But the fact that my concert ticket is a unique digital item that I can swap with other people, and Ticketmaster's not in charge anymore, that's much easier for people to understand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you just touched on a few things there, like ownership, with, say, driving licenses, or when you were talking before the show about property, that's another one that I think they can be the association with NFTs as well, with a lot of maybe the deeds and all of the documentation surrounding with property. It can just be a represented with, a link, essentially, can't it? A link that's on the blockchain that people can't argue over. You have that link, funds are transferred, that then is yours. You have the deeds on the property, and whether that's a car, whether it's a house or jewelry, goods, assets, whatever, I think we can see that the use cases are numerous and really only limited by our own thinking, aren't they? You know, we can actually think, as you've done with JPEG, you know, you can start thinking, okay, how can we create another token? How can that be utilized? It's almost like now you've got, you know, this internal currency, haven't you? You know, that you can do certain things with, but you can only get it by being a member, by using the JPEG token itself. So, I mean, you know, it's like a stepping stone process. And then, of course, like you said, there's going to be some great news tomorrow and partnerships, etc., where there's going to be even more bolt-ons to that whole process. It's going to be pretty exciting, I reckon.
Yeah, so like our membership club is where we started. It's the core. It's where JPEG gets its value. Is you join the club, you get free NFTs, right? It's the core of what gives JPEG value. But we're in the process of migrating from just a membership club to essentially a general Stellar NFT support body, a place you can go, you can learn how to make NFTs, learn what they're about, you can hire artists, you can get grants. So we're turning into kind of a general support body. I don't know if you know about the SOS or the OpenDAO on Ethereum that dropped tokens to everyone that used OpenSea. So they were kind of saying, we support Ethereum NFT buyers, and now we're going to be a community. We're kind of that version on Stellar. You know, if anyone gets ripped off on Lightmint, we're going to probably come try to rescue them and reimburse them. We're kind of the NFT support organization of Stellar is what we'd like to become. And the Mountain token is how we reward people. And it's not necessarily for financial gain. The Mountain token is to be used to buy NFTs, to be used for entertainment, right?
I think that you touched on the education as well, and you know, I've seen quite a lot of stuff popping up where you've got some really cool people helping the community at large understand. Of course, it's a passion of mine. Seeing that people have got more knowledge, I think that confidence comes with the knowledge of subject matter. So I think people can be confident investors into projects, which is another passion of mine. You know, transitioning people from this kangaroo mindset, flipping around different projects, to actually believing in some projects and investing in them 6, 12, 18, 2 years. But you've got these cool characters that kind of I've noticed that are doing some sort of trainings. Can you elaborate on these kind of educational kind of days, these workshops that you're doing?
Yeah, so this is just a perfect example of how we function. There's a guy in our Discord. His Discord name is Arnab, and he joined JPEG and he wanted to help with a Discord admin, and he's doing a great job. And then he's talking to me and he says, I noticed there's all these people joining that like want to know more about how you make an NFT. I'm an artist that makes oil paintings. Would that transfer over well, right? And I said, this is a great opportunity to get yourself an innovation grant and start up an education series. I know there's kind of a lot of pent up demand for this from brands, from individuals, from developing nations, from, you know, analog artists. And so he wrote up an innovation grant. He got a bunch of some of the top artists that we all know, right? Gnaw and Cheese and the top guys that we all know and love as coaches for these sessions. And it's going to teach people, how do you get your Stellar wallet? How do you use Lightmint? Why would you use Lightmint? What works well in digital doesn't work well in analog. Just kind of NFT 101. And I think there's a lot of pent up demand for it. So he's totally running that. I show up to some of them and listen in, but it's not my beast anymore, man. It's out of the cage. It's totally. I feel like I could actually leave the Discord server for maybe 48 hours at a time, and it doesn't go kaboom, which is really nice to see.
Those workshops are really cool. I actually sat in and listened to the last one. It's really educational. I think that's what we really need here in the Stellarverse, to get new people on board. Because with the MoneyGram, deal. There's going to be a lot of new people coming into Stellar. They're not going to really understand how to do some of these things. It takes a little time. So once with having these resources like Ben having the Bull Run Crypto and with JPEGDAO running these workshops, it's really interactive and really intimate. So people don't feel intimidated. They can actually ask questions. I know back in December, I remember the Advent calendar. That was a big deal. Every day you'd wake up, get a airdrop in your pending balances, a different NFT. You didn't know who it was, but you know it was going to be great because they had the best artists on Lightman just dropping NFTs every day, almost every day of the month. Do you have any plans to bring that back or do a little bit of a remix to that?
I think we're gonna stick with this new system of you take your mountain and you go redeem. But we want a little bit more interplay between our Lightman store and the drops. You know, for example, we might get one NFT from Inc. Drop to our members, and then 5 follow-up ones that we sell on our store, right? That are 1-for-1s. But we want to so other NFT projects tend to get value by making them look kind of similar, right? So you have this collection. You saw that with your Lucy's, you know, and this style. We're never going to do that because we like to get from lots of different artists, and so we need a different way to create that consistent vibe. And so that's something we're working on. And the answer is lore and story. And so we're trying to kind of really create a story around JPEG Mountain, around what it is and where you can go, and the NFTs are going to pop out of it. We might even have a lore brewery that it's going to be a virtual place you can go, and you could hop to our NFT store. You could also probably hop to the Nawverse. You could hop to a game that Sir Cheese made for us a while ago that's still on our website. So it's going to be a jumping off point and support for, you know, the whole NFT community on Stellar.
I think that'll be good. It kind of makes the Advent calendar a little bit more valuable since it was only done one time and since they have that lore behind it.
I see this question coming in. First of all, to answer the first question about hoarding mountain tokens until you have enough to buy a gold, you can do whatever you want with your mountain tokens. I can't stop you. So yeah, that's if you want a gold and you don't have enough money to afford gold membership, save up your mountains until you have 10. And you can buy a gold one. In terms of other metaverse things that are coming online, they're not live yet, but man, there's a bunch in the pipeline. There's a partnership with Action. Action is going to be incredible. I'm super excited about Action. This is not finalized, but what we're thinking is we're going to write the word JPEG across Central Park, New York City, virtually in the Action world, filled with NFTs. So JPEG made of NFTs, and people are to hunt around Central Park looking for NFTs. So that's going to be wild. The Nawverse is going to have JPEG Mountain. And then we have a grant that we gave out a couple months ago, a very large one, that is a full-fledged, very professional game that should be coming out mid-year as well. So yeah, we're planning our bets all over the place in the metaverse. But the great thing is the assets are interchangeable, right? The metaverses might be private, but the assets can jump across everyone's metaverses if they all accept Stellar assets.
Yeah, I saw with the Action token today, they announced the NPC, the non-playable character NFTs. Where do they come up with this stuff? That's super. But yeah, I'm excited to go climb the JPEG mountains in Nawverse now. I'm excited to visit Central Park and see it up in the lights, just like LSP was a few weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. That was, were you behind that, Ben?
I was involved in the conversation, but no, I can't take any credit. No, I was just asked my opinion whether they thought it would be the top team thought it was a good move, so I gave my opinion. But no, besides that, I wasn't actually the one that pulled out the checkbook on that deal. But no, it was good to see. It was a lot of fun.
You wanna give us a round number on what that cost?
Yeah. It was about, well, it was over $20,000 US.
Oh my gosh. Man, I mean, constantly, there's so many people there. I mean, that sounds worth it to me.
And I think another thing is you got to, it's the time that it's displayed for, and there's so many other factors to take into consideration. I think, for me, you've got to try and balance. You've got to try and balance the project sustainability, your marketing costs, and some fun stuff like that. I mean, in terms of impact over a long term, none. But in terms of a cool community thing to get stellar projects out there to be seen by people, it's a great thing. And it's a little video clip that we can, use again and again. But then I think, would we have been better putting $20,000 into maybe a marketing agency and trying to bring in some no coiners and, maybe making a bit of a, probably being a better use of funds. We would have probably got, a better or a bigger community. But I think you have a balance, don't you, where you kind of got to do some crazy shit from time to time. And that was certainly one of those boxes that we were ticking.
Well, you're going to get like a wide crypto audience that has MetaMask or something on their computer, and they're going to jump into Lumenswap and they're just trying to connect to their MetaMask. It's not going to work. And we're going to say, welcome to Stellar, right? And it's time to try out our ecosystem. So definitely big thanks to Lumenswap for adding huge credibility and probably liquidity to all of Stellar for that.
Yeah, I think it's sorry, Glo, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, jump in.
I was just gonna say, I think that it's definitely just more so than just people seeing it, people going. It's just the fact that Lumenswap was the first to be able to do something to that magnitude. Maybe next year we'll be on a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah,
the sky's the limit. But yeah, I think it was definitely a cool one-time thing. But there probably could have been better use of funds, but it's still fun. It's still cool to be able to say Lumenswap was on Times Square.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. And I think that's the thing that they're trying to juggle. I mean, I've been harping on to Vlad and the team and saying, look, you've got a lottery. You've got the mechanisms of doing these lotteries. Why don't we reach out to different projects or do a Lucy or do something fun? So bring in, different partners and maybe they sponsor the NFT or the prize, whatever it is. Because if you've got the software sat there and you've not got a live lottery at all times, you're missing a trick, aren't you? You're missing a trick because you've got that. So I've been saying to him, and one of the ideas was obviously using the Lucy's, right? Because the team still have about 20 of those. Yeah, they own about 20. I said, just do 2 or 3 Lucy week lotteries for an NFT just to see how that's received. Because I think there's a lot, Vlad is very much along the lines of everyone wants $100,000 prize. But I said the sustainability of that model is not good, is it? Because you keep taking that out of foundation or taking that out of marketing, you're transferring that into XLM. It's having a negative impact on the price. Then you're giving that XLM to a community member. And the actual power of that, I don't think is worth it against if you were to do lots of small lotteries. And then as they got more popular on Stellar, the more people would get involved in them. And then if you had it in a sustainable model, so you had the raise paying the prize, and maybe some burnt, but not all. And you had that system running, and you said, okay, to like JPEG or Rabbit or whoever, do you guys want to have a lottery this week? Yeah, cool. So they get the publicity of having the lottery. They put up a cool NFT or a prize, and then you just rinse that model again and again and again. And if JPEG put up the prize, all of the LSP that was collected could be then used to future prizes, marketing, etc. But I think these are the small things that can make a difference on the Stellar network. If they're utilized rather than having a lottery here, and then 2-month gap and a lottery, and then a 2-month gap or 3-month gap and a lottery, keep the things rotating, keep doing that. And I think, it would be a really, really cool and fun, like you're talking about there, Glo, having a fun thing that Lumenswap are doing, and you've got the utility for LSP.
Yeah, you're talking about not a lottery as a single fun event. You're talking about a lottery as a product that people can go to and always know it's going to be there and enjoy it every week.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
It keeps the community engaged. Like right now, you get these time periods where Lumenswap devs are building. They're building out these new products. So once in the meantime, we could be having investors come in, be participating in the lottery, participate in just getting engaged, having a fun lottery where they can win a Lucy, start getting passive income off of that.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? Like, well, that comes back to what Brian was saying about, the kind of utility, with the games and all the different stuff that we're going to be seeing from JPEG. I think that, Lumenswap are again trying to do that. And I think there's many avenues you can go down. One is,
Yeah.
you would, a couple of weeks ago, there was the rabbit tokens that you would get if you held a Lucy. So it had a utility. But I think Lucy's could also, have many, many more purposes as we go down the track. As soon as things keep evolving, then we're going to see, more and more use cases for those. And I'd also say, I'd also argue, why don't Lumenswap do another set of, they've obviously got their Lucy's, but why don't they do another set of NFTs from another artist and do those with a different purpose? I mean, there's always that.
Yeah.
They've got the marketplace, haven't they? So, yeah, possibly.
So there's another. It's interesting that we're focused on utility because of the core roles at JPEG. The one I'm taking is the utility function. My job is to drive NFT utility outside of the art aspect. And so another thing I've been thinking about is beyond entertainment, you have this beautiful art. What other utility can you bring besides kind of using it in entertainment experiences? So you see, I got my JPEG sweatshirt right here. I mean, what's more perfect for a retail outlet than a huge pile of art, right? So if some of these projects, JPEG included, but possibly others, if they start getting their NFTs on clothing, on TV shows, I know the not the Bored Apes, but the First Ape Wives Club, or this wives ape team is now having a TV show. But basically, if we can get our artwork on shirts, on clothing, on TV shows, on kids' toys, and then give a percentage of royalties to the NFT holders, now you're not just promoting your NFT, but it's pride, right? This is it. I got this, and now I wear this sweatshirt everywhere. So that was I think clothing could be a big area of utility for sure. And then you kind of are a percentage ownership in the clothing company, right? Because you get some of the royalties.
I love that idea of the phygital, bringing the digital and the physical together to make a phygital item. And we even seen that in the sewers. Somebody made the QR codes that go on the picture. It looks super sick. And you can do that. You can scan it. You can also put the QR codes on the tag of the shirt or somewhere on the shirt. There's so many innovative ways you can do it. I've also been seeing jewelry where people have been putting the NFTs on the jewelry.
Yes.
Different stuff like that. It's super innovative,
Yes.
and it really blends the digital world with the physical world, which it looks like that's what they're trying to do with the meta anyways.
Yeah, so are we going to see rappers in 2022 with the monkeys on the chain?
We're already seeing them in the profile pic, so that's the natural evolution.
I saw this great quote on Twitter. It was a picture of a guy with a Rolex, and it said, "How silly is that? Only 10 people can see him showing off." Right? Because when you have a digital ape, thousands of people can see you showing off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's very, very, very true. It's very, very true. With these sort of things, I mean, the evolution we're going to see, I think is going to be blistering this year. It really is. And I mean, I know Noor himself has been doing, a lot of merchandise with the Bears, and I think we did the show earlier on today with Ink. We had Dablo on, and he's just releasing the kitties, and they're the same. I mean, one of them like kitty T-shirts. I mean, I can just see it. I can already. You own that NFT, and you've got the kitty with the banana or the afro and the big knife or something. I mean, you can already visualize a lot of this stuff, like as it's like the norm. It's not like us thinking, what about the future? It's almost like that's going to be the done thing, and as an absolute given. So let's move on a little bit to Stellar wide. Let's look at more of a macro level, and let's say,
Yeah.
you know, we seem to have a blockage, right? And that blockage is we've got the same people like us that are like having these conversations, and you know, we're excited about different things that are going to be innovating. How do we execute on a really strong project focused marketing campaign, unity between projects that brings people's eyeballs, both no coiners and crypto peeps, into
Yeah.
Stellar? Because at the moment, a lot of us are, or a lot of projects, I think, are suffering kind of from this, what I call a kangaroo mentality. People jump from one project, and then there's the next shiny thing, and then they jump to the next shiny thing, and then but the same money is essentially on a merry-go-round.
Gotcha.
I want to know, and I always want to like talk to people about how do we start to get out of this echo chamber?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, there's two audiences, right? There's the general crypto Ethereum audience, and there's the no coiners. Completely different kind of methods of attacking the beast here. I think getting analog artists, developing world artists, teaching them about how to use a Stellar wallet and how to use Lightmint, that's a great avenue, right? For the I wouldn't even call them node coiners. I would just call them people that haven't been introduced to crypto, right? For the kind of Ethereum centric MetaMask world, we need to start harping on not just that Stellar is fast and cheap, but what can that accomplish, right? So one thing I'm working on is, if you have a liquid NFT, if you have a liquid digital good, such as, let's say there's a sword and only 100 people have that sword, and you could have a fight and you could lose that sword in real time in the metaverse, and then the transaction takes the sword away from you. You can't do that without a fast, cheap blockchain, right? So we need to stop talking about that it's fast and cheap and start talking about what that means. That means you can walk into MoneyGram and you can have USD in your pocket in 5 minutes. So yeah, not the feature, but the value is how we're going to tell people that you might have MetaMask, and that's good for some investments, but the Stellar world is it gives you these value props. I would say one major value prop is that you can play around. You can go in liquidity pools, come out of liquidity pools, try different things out, and it didn't cost you $1,000 over the course of the day. I've played around with Ethereum and Sushi Swap, and I'm like, oh, that was fun. I learned some things. It also cost me about $800 to do the learning today. It doesn't cost you $800 to play around with Stellar. I think that's a huge value prop.
Yeah, I think that another thing, you know, for me, I'm totally resonating with the whole sword and that fast transaction, because I've been having really in-depth conversations with a guy who's been developing essentially a casino platform for 10 years. This guy is based in Tennessee, I think, in the States, and he's like next level of like knowledge in terms of card games, online security, and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, right, I'm looking for the best metaverse place, because essentially you can play cards online the same as any kind of online poker or any kind of blackjack or anything game that exists, but they want to take that into like a metaverse environment. And I was thinking, you know, they were talking about Sandbox and they were talking about all of these that are on F. And I was thinking, you know, something with cards, right? Because cards is much like what you said with swords. Cards is a turn one over, next action has to almost be instantaneous.
Yes.
So this whole casino aspect of, you know, I was looking at kind of what Nor's done, you know, with his Norverse, and kind of the galleries that Cheesley had done, and all this kind of stuff, you know, that we've been sampled, or we've been sampling over the last 6 months. And I was thinking, well, maybe Stellar's the best place, right, for what he's trying to achieve because of exactly what you said there, because of that speed. So then going to other people who are into poker or blackjack or, you know, any of these kind of games, this is obviously the ideal place to come because of that speed. You don't want to be waiting 25 minutes for an ETH transaction because the network's congested when you're turning a card over in poker for the next thing to happen. So we've got to, like you rightly said, then with the game and the sword, or whether it's cards or whatever it might be, I think we've got to be thinking of those applications of why cheapness and speed is key, isn't it? But for him, his stumbling block, I could sell him that, right? I'm confident I could sell him that. But his stumbling block is, well, talk to me about community. And then I'm like, okay, well, in honesty, with, you know, in my integrity intact, I'd say you're going to get more eyeballs on those other networks, which they want eyeballs because they pay their game with marketing, advertising. They want attention. So they're going to be attracted by bigger. So for me, it's almost like a paradoxical problem, this kind of paradoxical situation, because without the numbers, I can't get him in. And without him in, I can't get the numbers. It's kind of weird like this. So I'm always trying to think and strategize over how we get the numbers in to get the projects and to get these big, you know, big things moving on Stellar.
Yeah, I mean, it lives with the no coiners and showing value. And it doesn't have to be projects that need network effects, right? That project needs network effects. But you have Dixie, Rockin' Free World, right? And she's out there promoting to regular companies, small, medium-sized companies, saying, "Oh, you want an NFT? Here's how you do it. Here's the Lobster wallet. Let's give it to all the people in your gym." And so she, with pride, is presenting solutions, value to companies, and it just so happens to be on Stellar. And so we need more of that. We need less fear. We need more people like us going on LinkedIn and talking about Stellar and not thinking that we're total loonies, right? We have to kind of have pride in the product, which is Stellar, even though we don't have the huge community yet.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes we get stuck into these same platforms, whether it be Twitter, Telegram, Discord. When we got to realize there's people on Instagram, there's people on Facebook that are interested to find out what these new asset classes are. And they're getting bombarded with Ethereum, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, meme coins. They're not getting these real utility assets. It leaves them with more questions than answers. So it's up to us, the people who are early investors that are visionaries into these new technologies, to be able to introduce them and show them how easy, how fast, how innovative these technologies really are.
The fact that you can be an analog artist and with not a lot of money, and you can come to Lightmint, it's cheap, it's fast, and there's a strong community that's gonna support you with marketing, but also support you, teach you how to get on the platform. That solution that we've presented as a community is picking up speed, and it's valuable. So I think that's one of the first real solutions we're presenting to the world. Is come here. We have really nice community. We'll teach you how to be a digital artist. We'll get you on Lightmint and get you rocking and rolling. We need more of those. So stop talking about the features of fast and cheap and start talking about that thing that we can give you. And definitely, Ben, the projects that need network effects, that need large audiences, it's tough. You know, it's tough, but there's plenty of ways to present value without needing a large audience.
Yeah, it's just just helpful, isn't it? I think that if you can say, you know, we are out there, you know, pound for pound in. And I think that, like, initially I thought, oh, I don't think Stellar actually wants to pound for pound with these other networks. I think Stellar's kind of got its own route. It's done its own thing, and it's kind of, you know, a little different. And then you kind of see the automated market makers coming, and then they start talking about smart contracts. And I'm thinking, it's the actual words that we don't want to be one of these other big networks. True, you know, the truth, or is the truth that they are doing this, but they are just a lag behind now? Of course, there's smart contracts and all of the AMMs and that sort of thing has been over on F for a couple of years, and now we're starting to see Stellar. But of course, what we have to do is say, where was F? Where were these other chains back in 2018 and 19? They weren't obviously as super popular with the amount of TVL and all this other thing, were they, back then? It's taken time to get to that level. And I think if we kind of put ourselves back a little bit with everything that's happening as the network, the popularity and the use cases and that sort of thing is going to come. But I just think we're kind of that little lag behind. But we're trying to do things, I think, in a slightly different way, with having most of our utility as a network built into the protocol, rather than obviously, you know, having all of the rug risks and all of the challenges with building projects, as you said, you know, linking in through MetaMask and those kind of dApps. So speaking about this, another thing that's on my mind at the moment, and I think this is quite another interesting topic of conversation, is when we look at Stellar, we have two distinctly different sides. One side is very corporate, very institution focused, very, you know, let's link with Congress and let's try and be this bridge between traditional finance and decentralized finance or crypto world. And we need to build these relationships. And then on the other side, because of course, anyone can build on Stellar, you've kind of got a gang of projects that are like decentralized is, you know, is where we are. We will not forget, you know, or we will not give anything away. We want to stay anon. We don't want to do anything with these dudes that are in Congress. And you've kind of got these two almost, you know, two camps at the end of the spectrum. How does Stellar move forward?
Man, that's a huge question. So about 2 years ago, we may have talked about this. Sam Connor was talking to one of the SDF executives, and they were insisting that their marketing needs to be to a particular audience, not to just crypto heads. And Sam said, but if you get the buzz, if you get the hype, you're also going to attract thousands of developers. And the executive kind of, you know, did one of these and was like, that's not what we're trying to do. I think SDF is starting to see the benefit of having a big, silly community. They're doing all kinds of things. It attracts the developers. The developers want the projects. They don't. Developers, sure, there's a sea of developers that want to work on cross-border payment apps, right? But the vast majority of them want to see interesting, exciting use cases that are separate from that stuff people like us are trying to work on. So how do you bridge the two worlds? You bridge the two worlds by essentially having that anon, that Web3 side, essentially lobby the Stellar Development Foundation to include them in the conversation. And I think you're starting to see it. I think as you start to see more and more developers hitting up the GitHub, the Stellar Core Code GitHub, that are not following the same track as SDF, you'll see that influence more and more. The automated market makers, that was not on the SDF roadmap whatsoever. And the community said, we want this and we want it now. And then SDF was like, okay, sounds like a good idea. We'll help you out. So it becomes like a lobbying force, right?
I agree. I think it's the best of both worlds. You need the corporate side because that's the institutions. That's where the money's going to get injected. That's where we hate the word regulations, but we need some sort of regulations. Otherwise, it turns into Wild West. But then you get the decentralized rebels. We're kind of the Trojan horse that gets thrown into the mix that ends up taking over. So I see both sides, but yeah, I think eventually there's going to have to be a mixture of both. I think that the corporate side is starting to realize that they need us as much as we need them at this point.
Exactly. And it's about flexing the benefits, right? So fast, the cheap, the easy conversion to USDC. We on the anon side of Stellar, although I'm not very anonymous, need to use those benefits. So keep thinking about how we can take those Stellar features and turn them into actual benefits. Why are we doing these Web3 things on Stellar besides the fact that we know and like Stellar? Why aren't we doing them on Polygon or on Proton Chain? We have to start to articulate the reasons why it's better on Stellar, and that comes from some of the core features that having big corporate partners had.
Yeah, I think you've touched on some really, really good points. Really good points. And I think the more I look at it, you're right on the money as well, Glow, with the institutional money. When we look at Aave and these ones that have, and Coinbase, and these huge crypto projects that have got the institutional side and the kind of decentralized rebel side within one protocol. You've got institutional money that can come in there, and you've also got us that can kind of come in there as retail. And they've blended both, haven't they? The ability to have both, and I think that's where we're likely to head more and more. But I think it's interesting because, say, from Lumenswap's perspective, I think in terms of usable tools, there's not going to be too many competitors to Lumenswap when they're finished up. When we look at everything they're trying to do, yes, there's obviously the client that's going to access the SDEX, and we're going to be able to swap assets. But when you start getting into lending, borrowing, you start getting into anchors, which they've confirmed that they're going to be doing. They're going to be making the NFT marketplace public so that people can mint artwork there. They're going to be, next month, they're going to be moving to a DAO, software DAO, so that they've got, we have the ability to put proposals and steer the project. I know that's a big passion of yours, Brian, but for us at Lumenswap, getting that as well. Then, of course, all of the features we've already got as well. So there's not really going to be too many competitors in terms of just the level of development at Lumenswap. But then Lumenswap are anon, right? I mean, Vlad, who's the CEO, he could be the fairy godmother. He could be a woman, an alien, or anything. I have a relationship through Telegram. Who knows who this guy is, if it's a guy, a girl, or whatever. And I think that he will not ever, even to me, and we've had numerous conversations over 8 months, he will never even tell me what country he lives in. So they're going to be the flag bearer of, or one of the flag bearers of the Stellar network in terms of,
wild.
Tools. Yeah. But then they're also anonymous. So I'm always thinking to myself, how does Stellar kind of turn their back on this beast that's growing with Lumenswap in terms of development? Or how do they find that, workable balance?
Well, I mean, you got this partnership with MoneyGram and Lobster, right? And Lobster team, Ultra Stellar, they had to make some sacrifices to do that. They had to do stuff that Lumenswap is probably not willing to do. But once you get that USDC on Lobster, it's now digital goods. It can go to Lumenswap like that, right? So, and go to your lottery, right? So it's interesting. Stellar's rebranding as the on-ramp to DeFi, right? Because the bulk of DeFi probably will remain on Ethereum, but if Stellar can be the on-ramp of fiat, I mean, that's humongous, right? If for the whole crypto world, if Stellar can be the on-ramp of fiat, but once it's on Stellar, it can travel to Lumenswap very, very quickly and easily. There are going to be some things that Lumenswap can and cannot do. because of the way they identify. It's pretty incredible to see an anon project like Lumenswap take on so much and execute so well. I think, I was talking about kind of community lobbying SDF. This other angle is that you have anons that make a huge impact, and then you got to listen to them, right? The Stellar community has to listen to Lumenswap because it's going to be potentially a third of the liquidity on the whole network. So it has a voice in the room.
And I think that's it. I think that you've really just hit the bullseye, where you kind of almost work your way into the conversation with your development and the tools that you have. People are like, I saw that interview with Danelle, was it last week or the week before? Lumenswap was brought up. I can't remember who did the YouTube.
Yes.
But then as soon as Lumenswap was meant, you could almost see the body language was like, don't speak to me about Lumenswap. It was one of them, it's a client, and please can we move on, kind of, even though she didn't say that, and she was quite professional about it, as you'd expect. But you could kind of almost see that wasn't something or an area that she wanted to really go to town and elaborate on. But the interviewer brought it into conversation. And I thought it's really interesting that was then, it wasn't, oh, let's start talking about lobster and MoneyGram, and it was kind of coming in and what do you think about sort of Lumenswap and stuff. And like you say there, I think they've worked their way into this incredible position where, with Rabbit, I mean, a lot of people that I'm speaking to are saying, look, when Rabbit's on mobile, then I'm there. I'm ditching Lobster. I'm going with Rabbit because it's going to be, Web3 wallet. I'm not going to have to give up any of my identity. I can just, hook up with Rabbit, link into Lumenswap, and I'm cooking on my PC, on my mobile device. And I think when that happens, that is another layer of the cake that we're already talking about, because then there's two projects that are brother and sister projects that are going to have the access point into the Stellar network. You're going to be able to do a lot of financial activities with Lumenswap, and they're both, anon, for want of a better word.
And that financial things that are happening there, they don't live in a vacuum, right? Because it's one order book across Stellar. So when you have Brazilians and Argentinians that are trying to switch ARST to USD, and the liquidity is coming from Lumenswap, you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I want to give a shout out to Thinking Crypto channel because he's the one that did that interview. So shout out to you for mentioning Lumenswap. But yeah, it's coming more and more out. We're seeing these charts that include Lumenswap into the whole Stellar mainframe, and very intricate charts I'm seeing going around all of Twitter. The word's getting out here, and a lot of people don't like using Lobster because you have to give out your email. It's clunky. You don't always get the transactions coming through. Once Rabbit mobile wallet come out, I think that's going to be the game changer. That really is going to bring a lot of people to Stellar, because people download the wallet. They're like, you can't connect to apps on here? What do you mean? You don't have an NFT gallery? It's really just a bad user experience. I mean, we use it because it's what we have. But once Rabbit wallet comes out, I think the game is going to change. And I know I'm ready for it. I'm going to be switching completely to Rabbit whenever the time comes.
I hope it pushes the competition, pushes both you guys. That would be great to see. But for me, it's whoever can connect the Stellar set of tokens in universe to the MetaMask set of tokens in universe. It's game over if you can do that. And then you can start to use Stellar anchors. So anchors is another kind of area I've done a lot of work and research in the past. If you could, let's say you got USDC on Ethereum and you're trying to switch to ETH, if you could say, instead of paying this huge gas fee, I'm going to go USDC Ethereum to USD Stellar to ETH. If people are using Stellar as the layer 2 solution for Ethereum, it's game over, right? So if when we and there's a couple well-funded projects, they're trying to make these decentralized leaps. Ben, if you can get into one more business, I think I've asked 10 people to get into this business for me. The anchor business, man. If there's so many projects that are screaming for anchors and no one will build them anchors, let's get all the Ethereum.
Is it the technical? Is it? Do you think it's the technicality there? Because I mean, like for if people are screaming for these anchors and yet they're not happening, is it because it's technically very challenging?
I don't think that's it. So there's I've been given the excuses by devs. So there's a few reasons. First, the regulatory. If they're holding your money even for 1 second, it makes them nervous, right? If they're taking your asset and flipping it from one chain to another, and they need to hold on to some money, it makes them nervous depending on what country they're in. The second is transaction volume. So if we could do JPEG on Stellar and JPEG on Polygon, I mean, that would and release the same NFT on both chains. That would be so sick, right? Be very cool, and it would be huge value for our community. But in terms of the actual volume and transaction fees that the anchor creator is getting, not so much for them, right? It wouldn't be like having an XLM or USDC anchor. And so we need a different anchor business model. We need someone to come out and say, I will make your token an anchor and charge a SaaS fee, right? Charge a maintenance fee. And here's this high value anchor for any token you want. I own SOS, the Open DAO on Ethereum. I'd rather hold that in my Stellar wallet. So give me the anchor, give me the SOS anchor on Stellar, and I'll move my money over there.
Yeah, I think when it does, like you said, when it's game over, I mean that liquidity just flows in, doesn't it? You know, that's the thing. It's just going to absolutely pour as soon as that system where you can move. I mean, we've spoken about, you know, I think it might have been G or someone was telling me about XRP. So I was thinking about this marketing question I asked earlier on and thinking, okay, should we move some assets over to XRP and then start kind of rinse and repeating what we're doing here? Because I think the community is stronger over there at the moment. And you know, being related to XRP in a way, I think it's the logical first step. And he was talking to me, mate, I think it might have been him, about this system where you can move tokens through a certain way over onto XRP. I can't remember the technical side.
Just needs simple Stellar anchors. They're not complicated, really at all. They're centralized anchors, right? But they do these leaps really easily.
So I think, yeah, I mean, that's going to be something to really help. You know, when you talk about those two communities, you know, the people that are yet to find crypto or no coins, whatever you want to call them, and then obviously the people in the crypto space. You know, to bring those people in the crypto space, that is necessary. You know, because at the minute, I mean, how do you get into Stellar? I think it was it yesterday? It was one of the exchanges in the States started doing Stellar USDC, didn't they? It was a big deal.
Okay, coin. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So I think that's helpful. Don't get me wrong. It's like, that's a big deal, but you know, we need the less friction, don't we? So people can come. So these anchors sound like just a ticket to help with the liquidity and to bring that in. And then of course, the Lumenswaps of the world and the JPEGs are going to see, you know, a lot more interest, a lot more users. You know, as the game's going to be a lot easier for us in terms of marketing because we've got the routes to bring the people in.
Yeah, we have the system made, we have the product made, we got the community. We're ready, right, for a larger audience. Whereas you have projects on their chains that, okay, what are you doing? Oh, here's our distribution of tokens. Okay, but what are you actually doing? And they got nothing. I think we're attracting really high quality on Stellar because people are here for the right reasons. We just need some more sizable audiences. But I will remind you, Ben, that Web3 type projects, you know, projects that run on a single token economy, a year and a half ago on Stellar, what were there, 5? Maybe less. It just wasn't something you did on Stellar. And now we have almost weekly things at JPEG level popping up. New ones popping up almost weekly, I would say. And I think it'll lift us all up. I was on Twitter the other day, and I was looking at some of these NFT projects, and I was like, holy crap, man, it's getting competitive out there. The quality is going up, which is really great to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes you have to zoom out on the big picture. A lot of times we're zoomed in on what's going on in the day to day. But if you look at it at a weekly, a monthly basis, look at all the new projects that are popping up. You got Drift, you got Interstellar, you got Rabbit. You got a whole family that's starting to form. We got JPEG, Nuna. It's all the chessboard pieces on the chessboard are coming together, and it's time. We almost got the checkmate.
I mean, action has the potential to be Pokemon level. That's just I'm gonna throw at my random guess of the month here. Action. I literally pictured the Action app in my head. I wish you could walk around in your room and pick up a token or NFT. And then Action came around and said, we're doing that, and it's coming very soon. And I was like, that's incredible, because I really wanted someone to do that. Yeah, I think, Ben, what we're circling around here, and Harley, what we're circling around here is that we bring the no-coiners in with utility and function, not with features. We don't talk features. We talk about what we have to offer. And we bring the whole Ethereum world in when we have liquidity to offer them, when we have interconnections to offer. We don't even need liquidity. I don't think we're going to attract Ethereum people to our AMMs because they're doing well. It's not going to happen. We just need that connection point. We need the worlds connected, and then it'll stream in.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, one of the people I work closely with, him and I say soon. I can't tell you how long that's going to be, whether it's going to be months or whether it's going to be another year or more. But you're going to be able to just whip assets from any chain to any chain. It's going to be one big pool, isn't it? As soon as those tools, those anchors or bridges are all in place, where essentially you could have JPEG on Terra Money, you could have it on ETH, you could have it on Polygon, and then you can just, within a couple of 1 minute or a couple of clicks on the keyboard, Stellar, or back that way, and you're going to be able to take advantage, and you can be able to move NFTs in that way as well. I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, you consider, say, from 2018, when bridges were really just a kind of a concept, weren't they? They were just an idea.
Yeah.
It would be, let's move assets from one to now. I mean, you go to the EVM chains, they're 10 a penny bridges. To go to, I switch on mine between, maybe I've got 20 different chains in one MetaMask wallet. And I click different custom RPC all the way down, and I can, move assets depending on different bridges between them in the same wallet. Happy to that. When that functionality comes into Stellar, I agree. We're cooking. We are moving then.
So here's a question I've pondered while falling asleep many a nights, which tells a lot about me. When you have, I'm like that meme with the wife going, "What is he thinking about?" Right, and I'm thinking about crypto. If you have like Apple stock and XLM and USD, and they're all 100% liquid, how do you determine value, right? If a stock and a cryptocurrency and a currency are all, how do you determine the value of Apple stock if Apple stock can be used as money? How does that change? How do we? I think it radically changes the way we value anything.
I think it makes everything more valuable, because
everything more.
Yeah, I think it makes everything more valuable. If you can move it faster, then that makes it more valuable. People are able, because there's a lot of money that's stuck in stuff like stocks, stuff like bonds, stuff that isn't liquid. If you can open up that liquidity, I think that is a game changer in itself.
But I think also, I mean, there has to be a counter argument to that, where, like, how do you do that, right? I mean, how for me, if there isn't any anchor point, then what gives it
Right.
any value?
That's
Right.
that's the question.
Yeah.
So I mean, you say it's more valuable, but also then on the same spectrum, you'd have to say, is there any value to it?
I would
What's
say, yeah.
go on,
Well, that brings into the question of, does that, and the only way things have value is if we give it value.
yes.
So it stops being a question about what's your revenue, what's your profit. That no longer determines your value. Your value is your brand. If you get to hold any money, if you get to hold any asset you want, and that becomes money. You want sheep, have sheep, right? Any asset you want is your money. Then it's a branding game, and a branding game to me boils down to a goodness game. It's the best kind of branding is philanthropy, right? The best kind of marketing is philanthropy. So if people like what you're doing, they hold your currency, aka Bitcoin, right? If we can, that's the world I'd like to see. That's how I stay an optimist. Is if all our institutions crumble and crypto and DAOs take over, I think we have something really interesting to offer around a new way to vote, a new way to govern, and a new way to value things.
Yeah, I agree. That really changes the game, because then it doesn't become what's your net worth. It becomes, what's your net worth? Who are you connected with? What ideas do you have to bring to the table? It really opens a door. You see artists, they're starting to have ways to make money. There's creativity is value. That's the way the universe should work, is whoever's bringing ideas to the table should be rewarded for those ideas. Whoever's
Yep.
contributing, world gives it right back.
A world where your contribution is valued whether or not it creates profit. And then people can hold your asset. They can hold the Ben asset. Ben had some great YouTube videos. I learned a lot of things from it. Ben made $0 on it. I'm going to hold the Ben token. And so you're creating value without creating profit. That's.
I have been a long advocate of creativity is currency.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, what is this guy on? He's wired up wrong. And I just think, no, I mean, I'm a prime example of this, because I come into this space and then think, okay, I love it. I buzz off it. I get up in the morning, crypto is kind of my life. I'm the same with the wife. And it's like, what's he doing? And at 3 o'clock in the morning, still looking on a Telegram thread or something, So, but I think that, okay, how do I forge a career in this? Like, what is, how do I do that? How do I bring more value? What are people needing? Because essentially what it is, it comes into the bringing a solution at marketing, finding that people have got a problem and then you providing the solution, and sometimes people actually need highlighting that they've got a challenge. Sometimes they don't even know that they've got the problem, right? Until you tell them that they've got this problem, which is great marketing, and then you offer the solution to them as well for their problem that you've just told them. And I think that's kind of where I would say, in terms of creative, okay, as a creative, how do you do that? Well, you do it by identifying there are a hell of a lot of people in crypto that don't know what the hell they're doing. And if you can bring any kind of light on that, and you can do it in a very simple to understand format where it can illuminate their path for them so they make less mistakes, keep more of their assets, don't get scammed as much. There's a business model there. And then you can almost go, well, I don't go to any specific university or this. So you talk about this new economy coming. People can actually use their creativity and their passions, and they can monetize that. You're proving that with JPEGDAO, where you can come in, you can bring some value in some area, and then there's going to be reward for that depending on the value that you bring in that area. And it could be a whole selection of different things, couldn't it?
Yeah. A DAO is a place where, sure, we might have titles just like a regular business, but you get to pick your title. And then if you earn the respect of the people around you, then that's your title. So yeah, so circling right on back around, Ben. It's you could say, how are we going to get people to Stellar? It could be so you have the corporate answer, which is fiat on ramp or digital currency on ramp. You have the community answer. The community answer is it's the blockchain for learning. You can go play with the AMMs and not lose your shirt. You can meet our tight knit community. We will help you with open arms and teach you how to make NFTs. About all these issues. We have an incredible community around NFTs, incredible community around people that know monetary policy. And then we have these real high quality circles of people around Lumenswap and JPEG and public node. And so I think that could be one of your answers. This is the blockchain for learning.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's another one of those utilities that we spoke about, whether it's the sword, whether it's the poker game, the learning. Come here, learn the skills in a very relaxed environment. It's not going to cost you hardly anything. Come in with $10 and you can practice all of them things, can't you? I think that's another great, and there maybe should be a infographic. Someone creates an infographic, someone that's got the design skills where it's okay, why Stellar? And that thing being like almost a kind of a paid ad where people go, oh, so we can actually learn stuff. Yep, here you go to this link. This is going to set you up on the learning. Oh, so we can practice doing our DeFi stuff. Yep, go to this place here. This is where it is at. And if we had that kind of very simple to understand kind of infographic that we collectively used. And one thing that I said earlier in the week to Sir Cheesley was, we should have projects like JPEG, your value proposition, like Lumenswap, the value proposition there, and a little, just a little 2 or 3 lines. That's all it needs to be. What is your kind of mission statement or whatever? And then, directing people to maybe 6 or 7 of these ones, like Glow said, these decentralized rebel, kind of anon ones that are like a family together. You can go here for this, there, here, and these are the boxes that you can get ticked. And I see that as more of a micro of the macro, which would be why Stellar. Why Stellar, first of all, then that.
Yeah, you're trying to really get the gang together, Ben, it sounds like. Do you think there's a platform out there, for example, public node, that is the right place to bring the gang together? Or do we think we need some sort of new community something or other to get everyone together and create infographics or pay for advertising? Why Stellar? Kind of like a counter to SDF, right? A community sponsored one.
Exactly that. I think that we need to, the likes of yourself and me and Glow, and there's a whole host of people, isn't there? We could go on and on. So Cheese.
Oh, we know the crew. Yeah.
I think these people need to be having a conversation. And Jack, who I know that he worked closely with you. I mean, he's someone that I've shared some voice notes with recently, and we're both on the same page with this as well. That we need to have a place. I don't know the answer, by the way. But we need to go to a place where we say, okay, let's strategize what we're talking about in this show tonight. And let's say what skills do we have? What skills do we need to acquire for what we're trying to achieve? And let's make a marketing plan or whatever words we want to use for that. And then say, let's get this in action. And let's start moving down that, so we start doing everything we're talking about, rather than it staying at a conversation stage. Let's take something from it and act on it.
We said that fun is utility, but so is education. And I think you bring up a good point that we are going to need these leaders in the Stellar community to come together and figure out infographics, figure out some sort of marketing techniques to get these people who are just learning to get educated, so that they can start bring out their own projects, so that it's a cycle. Because you see a lot of these people who come into Stellar, after about 6 months, they're experts. They're building their own projects. They're innovating and bringing more utility. You see, like Fragged, he brought out that Stellar Balances tool. That is a tool that almost everybody uses for penning balances, because there's not really a good way to send them at the moment. I think as the network grows, we do need to continue to educate. We need to, because there's going to be an influx of new people coming in. That's going to be coming within the next couple weeks, a month. It's going to continue happening. So if we can get these infographics and figure out a central place where leaders can get together and can figure out strategies to onboard new people into crypto, that's going to be a game changer for Stellar.
I think so. And for the audience, you know, this is the three of us. Everyone could leave, and we'll just continue to have this chat, right?
Yeah, I think these, you know, I'm enjoying it greatly. I mean, we're 20 minutes over our normal hour, and I'm in great because I'm the same as you, Brian. You know, I wake up every day and go to bed every day, and people think this guy's wired up wrong, but I can't stop thinking about it because I see that when we find these solutions, and it's not that they don't exist, we just don't know what they are exactly yet. But when we find them, then, you know, and it's only a matter of time when we put the collective mind, you know, onto a challenge that we've got before we find the solution. When we find that, then we unlock it and everyone benefits. You know, I'm firmly about unity. You know, I love various different projects across Stellar. And I think what we need, and I've said it from the beginning, those to unify. You're doing it with Beer, you know, Lumenswap's doing it with Rabbit, and Drift are linking with, you know, Lumenswap, and etc. etc. There's a lot of different little partnerships bubbling up. If we can tie in with a commonality that we want to obviously raise the network up, and we put our brightest minds in each of them projects into one place, we're going to find the solution.
Yeah, it could even be. It doesn't have to be entire network. It could also be. A group dedicated to bringing NFTs to Stellar, for example, right? And it just so happens that SDF is pushing out marketing grants right now. So while SDF does push towards like the corporate side and KYC, they gave a huge grant to Stellar Global, right? They're not afraid of the community. Lumenswap, I would say, on the chart of doing wild things and being successful, is probably the furthest out there, right? And in terms of their level of success and their level of anon, it's probably the furthest project out there, and it might scare Danelle a little bit. But SDF, I think, will support us if we come with professionalism.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, I do this show obviously for Lumenswap, but I try and come across objectively, you know, and I will be the first person to say, bloody hell, JPEG are doing this amazing thing, even though I'm not directly, you know, one of your generals in the project, shall we say, but I'll be identifying that. And it's the same with if there's something going on with Interstellar, and I'll say, bloody hell, the artwork you've had done for your NFTs is world class. It's better than half the stuff on F. You know, I will try and identify that. But I think there's a space for us away from Lumenswap. You know, I'm not anon. People know who I am. They know who you are, who Harley is. You know, the people that are in that community-facing roles, we can go, okay, well, we're going to take on some kind of marketing challenge. And, you know, we're going to try and bring more people here. Can we have a grant? It's not linked to Lumenswap or Rabbit or any of these kind of wild projects. We are trying to raise the profile. And here we are, look, we're real people. We're not just Telegram sort of personalities. And I think there's definitely a space for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, so you said you didn't have the answer, but isn't that what Stellar Global is trying to do? Or does it need to somehow not be connected to anyone?
I think that Stellar Global are trying to do it, but Stellar Global are very closely associated with the corporate side of Stellar, right? And I know we'd have to have that, but they are, you know, they have, for me, this very close association, which is great. And you know, that's fine because that's needed. But I also think that we've got to look at things maybe slightly differently. I'm not talking about dodgy or anything like that. I'm just talking about from a project's perspective. You know, if the project someone's put here in one of the, let's just bring it up. If projects came together and all pitched in on a large 100K or more marketing campaign, it would have more impact than sitting idle and waiting for Stella to handle all the marketing. That kind of doesn't have to be 100K, but if we just said, right, let's try a few different ideas from a little project community standpoint, you know, let's try it. And if that takes, let's talk with, you know, Global about how we can unify them two maybe and start doing some stuff to and build on that momentum.
I was going to say maybe Global is too closely associated with one or two people as opposed to closely associated with corporate. But yeah, what you're talking about is not associated with a single individual, right? Which is a good part of it. I did talk to Tyler about podcasts and about this about a year ago, Tyler at SDF, and he said something that we got to remember, which is, he said, Brian, I was doing the Inside Stellar podcast back then, and he said, Brian, by not being an SDF employee, by your podcast not being the SDF podcast, you can say things that I can't. I need to get approval for everything I say. And so SDF will support us. The community will support us. And we can say things that they can't. And that's great. That's not a bad thing, right? It's a good thing that there's these two different bodies.
Yeah, I think you've said that brilliantly, that we can, and I do it on here. I mean, I'm detrimental of some of the Lumenswap things because I come from, and I think that's how I build my own personal brand, and my integrity for myself is maintained because I won't just go, oh, it's the Lumenswap Show and everything's so wonderful and it's all sunshine and rainbows. If there's something like I said about the lottery earlier or other things, if I think they're not doing something right, too many centralized exchange, I'll say it on this show. You know, and I think people respect me for the fact that I'll be honest. And that's so for us to have that ability to say, you know, some of the stellar shortfalls at the minute, you know, are centered around the marketing and how we promote ourselves. But Stella's been about building something magical, and it hasn't been, and we've touched on this before in the other show, but it hasn't been as heavy on marketing. Now, as you said, now that there are these projects popping up, now that we are starting to see a little bit of momentum, be a great time to start marketing now as the network is growing and incorporating smart contracts and the AMMs, and we start building along with it rather than thinking, oh, that's just going to happen naturally in the future. Let's just leave the SDF to that. I just think that they've got a little bit of a different angle, and we can certainly exploit some other routes.
Yeah, SDF, no matter how big or how much money they get, will never be promoting Action Token. It will never be talking about Lucy's. It's not going to happen. But would they give us a grant to do it ourselves? Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a good way. That's a good way to leave the show, Brian. As always, well, people have put in the let's leave the community to decide. Guys, if you've enjoyed having Brian on and you would like us to have another of these, we haven't even touched on politics yet. We said the next show we're going to touch on politics.
The next one we're going to talk about world peace. Yeah.
If you've enjoyed it, just put it into the comments. What I'm going to do, guys, I'm just going to screen share because we've got 1,000 LSP to give away to one of you lucky people. So I'm going to do that. Just put in there if you've enjoyed tonight and you want to see Brian back, hit it in the comments now, and I will get on with showing the screen. We have 50 entries. I think that's one of the most we've ever had. So 50 entries to the JPEG keyword. Here's the draw. Good luck, everyone.
Let's see who it is.
Emmett, good to see. Fergal, nice to see you.
Naked Stone Jewelry.
Nice. Woo! Very nice.
Well done. Great work. Nice. If you hit me up on Twitter or on the Telegram, the Lumenswap Telegram, I will get your address and I'll send it over to Vlad and he can get your prize your 1,000 LSP. Over to you. Brian, it's been an absolute honor. I'll leave the last words to Glow. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's take this as the first step towards, you know, the this combined philosophy group or whatever on marketing. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, somebody put in the comments, Stellar Knights of the Round Table. I love that because that's so fitting, to have a meeting of the minds where we can all get together and figure it out. And I really don't think it's going to take that much money per se. Maybe some giveaways to get the word out. But I think it's the little things, the guerrilla marketing, getting out in the real world, showing people how it's done, the infographics. I think it's those type of things rather than just throwing a whole bunch of money or a whole bunch of tokens everywhere, because that's been tried. That only attracts a certain clientele, which aren't usually the people that we really need in the community. But I think between all of the minds and Stellar and all the leaders, I think we can really knock it out of the park and figure out some ways to really bring new people in.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much for your time, Brian. Have a great day. See you later. Cheers, Glow.
Cheers.